of Age by Paleowriter. Chapter 6. Fish flopped along the ground, directed by Fluttershy toward their brand new pond. "How's those don't get?" Applejack said, throwing her shovel to one side. Spike darted around, picking up the discarded shovels as Twilight is filling the pond with water from the reservoir. "Water just don't stop flowing for no good reason." "No, it doesn't," Twilight agreed. "But I think that may need to be a mystery we answer as we catch up to Rarity." "Which we would have already been doing if some pony wouldn't have let us leave sooner," Rainbow Dash said, eyeing Fluttershy as he finished nudging the last fish into the pond. Fluttershy, whose nose was already near the ground, shrunk even lower down. Spike winced, even though inside he agreed with the Blue Pegasus. "We need Fluttershy with us," Twilight said, "and if she wanted to make sure the animals were safe before we left, that's her decision." Spike set the shovels down in a pile by Fluttershy's cottage, trying to hold in grumbles about Fluttershy's priorities. One shovel clattered to the ground as he turned away, but he didn't bother going back to pick it up. They had to get going. Rarity and Sweetie Belle were out there. "Couldn't we just ask some other ponies to take care of this whole pond digging business?" But as Spike imagined the scenario, he realized it would have taken just as long.
"Now, once you've got the hole dug, you'll need to fill it up gently. No need to rush. Too much water will hurt the earthworms."
Spike could just see Fluttershy micromanaging any task that involved animals. Quietly, of course. He shook his head, walking back over to every pony by the new pond. What's done was done. At least now they could get moving. "Every pony set?" Twilight asked, magically adjusting the straps of her saddlebags. Fluttershy straightened up.
"Oh yes, thank you, Twilight."
"Whatever it takes to get you to come," Twilight said. Fluttershy nodded, and they both turned and began walking into the forest, with the other ponies following. "Couldn't have said it better myself," Spike thought, lifting his bag over his shoulder and walking behind every pony else. You could hear Fluttershy mumbling to herself as they walked.
"Now, you've made a promise. Dragons or no dragons, Rarity needs you."
Pinkie Pie bounded alongside the pony lineup as they marched through the first pass of the Everfree. Naturally, she was swinging. "We're coming to save you, Rarity, and don't you fret or fear. We're coming to save you, Rarity. If you don't really need us, leave out saving your secret quest is taking care of those royal guards just got lost or something, and we'll bring you back to friendship and hopefully. So cheer!" The pink pony gasped for air, her chest heaving in and out. Spike passed her, shaking his head. Applejack glanced back over at her shoulder at Pinkie Pie. "Better keep singing to a minimum there, Pinkie," Applejack said. "We don't want to attract any unnecessary attention in these wounds." An image of timber wolves flashed through Spike's mind, and he gulped. "I hope Sleepy caught up to Rarity. I hope. "We'll be fine," Twilight said, "as long as we stick together." Spike picked up his pace, barely listening to any more of the ponies' conversations. "Sleepy has to be okay. She has to be. If Rarity, she... His small dragon brain couldn't even begin to process what he'd do if Rarity wasn't okay. Air tore into Rarity's lungs as they surfaced. Sweetie Belle gasped beside her. Rarity grabbed her sister, throwing a hoof over her to prop her upright on the raft. Her chest burned as she took a second, desperate breath. Stefan turned his head to face them, and the gold-plated raft caught the sunlight as it shifted, making Rarity wince. "They're still coming!" the sea serpent said, gazing up into the sky. "We haven't lost them yet, but we need to get farther into the forest."
"Rarity, no, I can't. Please don't make us go into underwater again,"
Sweetie Belle pleaded, quivering beneath Rarity's hoof.
"Stefan,"
Rarity asked the sea serpent as he swam through snake style through the river. Her coat dripped around her hose, as she was sure the food in her pack was ruined. "I'm sorry," Stefan said, his golden eyebrows creased together. "I'm afraid it's the fastest way I can travel, and we need speed to lose those gargoyles."
"Gargoyles?"
Rarity spun to look at the creatures flying out.
"What about the dragons?"
But no. The more she stared, The more she realized the beasts with the leathery wings weren't dragons at all. They were far too thin and far too ugly. They were the same as the creature that had made off with her sister, Applebloom, and Scootaloo the night before. Except now, there were more of them. At least 6 or 7, for Rarity's quick count. All headed their way.
Oh, my.
Hold on tight again, please! Stefan directed, as the gargoyles drew closer.
Mary!
Squeaky Belle squeaked, scorching and scooching even more under Rarity's hoof, and hugging her sister's body tight.
Deep breath, Sweetie Belle!
Rarity said, sucking in on her own. Down they dove. Rarity's eyes pinched shut, once again using her magic to cling extra tight to their raft and to her sister. The river water rushed around them, though this time there were no rocks hurtling past them. It seemed the gargoyles were at least out of boulder throwing range. Judging by Stefan's swimming rate, Rarity hoped they'd soon be gone entirely. She could feel her mane flowing behind her in the water, like some pony had grabbed it and wouldn't let go. Same with her tail. She didn't dare open her eyes for fear that sand or river grime would get washed into them as they traveled underwater at Stefan's admittedly impressive super speed.
Gargoyles! Gargoyles! What gargoyles? What is happening?
Rarity's brain couldn't begin to think of an answer, perhaps from lack of oxygen. Her chest ached between her wasting lungs and pounding heart. Adrenaline shook her whole body. All thoughts of gargoyles quickly vanished, and the thought of breathing took her over completely. They needed to surface. It was too much. She needed air, and she needed it now. Same with Sweetie Belle. The little filly's grip was loosening. Rarity used her last bit of energy to magically tug the fin on the right side of Stephen's head, pulling it upwards. He got the message and swam back to the surface. Above her and Sweetie Belle gasped once more, splashing through to the top of the river. As soon as he could manage it, Rarity spun and glanced behind him. She couldn't even see the forest anymore, much less any gargoyles. She hesitantly allowed herself a moment of security. After all that swimming, she was pretty sure they'd done it. Pretty sure they escaped. Sweetie Belle coughed next to her on the raft. And Rarity pushed her sister's mane away from her face, making sure her eyes and nose were clear.
Are you all right, sweetie?
She asked.
Yeah.
Sweetie Belle said weakly.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, sure?
Rarity asked, fretting over the filly until Sweetie Belle pushed away, swatting her sister's hooves back.
Right then.
She glanced over her shoulders once again. Still no gargoyles. They were safe, weren't they?
We lost them!
Stefan said. He slowed down his swimming to a more casual pace.
We have.
Rarity said, breathing a sigh of relief at his confirmation. Stefan swam onwards, presumably towards a meeting spot for others of his species. At least Rarity could hope. She certainly lost enough time already on her mission.
I just don't understand. Why are gargoyles attacking us?
Sweetie Belle asked, wringing out her mane with her hooves. The water dripped down onto the fancy raft, running out the sides and down Stefan's scales onto the river.
The gargoyles have been doing a lot of strange things lately,
Stefan said.
Last night, a gargoyle wanted to eat us,
Sweetie Belle said. Her eyes flung open.
Do you think we weren't enough for them? Maybe they moved on to sea serpents?
Their guy shook his head.
I don't think they were going to eat me,
Stefan said.
Well, I'm sure I'd be a delicacy.
He put a thoughtful finger to his chin.
Oh, indeed, of course,
Rarity said, barely even thinking about what she was agreeing with, as her brain turned over the facts.
So now, not only are the gargoyle dragons against sea serpents, the gargoyles are as well? Or are they a rogue group doing their own thing? No, I think they were trying to keep me away from the other 3 forests,
Stephen said.
After all, it was just a few weeks ago that they chased me out of there, rather rudely too. Gargoyles chased you out of the forest?
Rarity asked, making sure she understood him correctly.
Yes, and I wish I knew why,
Stephen pouted.
Wait, so if they chased you out of the forest,
Sleepspell stared back upriver.
Maybe they were trying to take it over or something. What if there's more of them? Really?
She spun to face her sister.
What about Skulu and Apple Bloom and Spike? Do you think they got out there okay?
Rarity's heart flipped in her chest.
Spiky Wikey?
It took all her willpower to keep her facial expression calm and collected.
I'm certain to find sweetie,
she said, as reassuringly as she could. A small whimper managed to escape her mouth, but her sister didn't notice. Stefan watched Rarity carefully. It definitely changed the subject. I suppose that's a mystery for another day. We'll be out to sea and on our way to see Serpentinia's ceremonial meeting isle soon.
Oh dear, the meeting isles already. Well, we'd better prepare ourselves then.
Rarity refocused her attention.
How are the sea serpents going to welcome an ambassador whose mane looks like something opal coughed up?
She knew exactly what she needed to do to pass the time between now and when they arrived at their destination. Her horn glowed as she began to tackle both her and Sleebell's red coats. She could only hope to be enough of a distraction. She desperately needed the vision of an entire horde of gargoyles attacking her spiky wikey to disappear back into the corners of her imagination. Her host shook. Rarity narrowed her eyes in an effort to keep them steady.
Just please stop already, overactive imagination. Spike is just fine. He's safe back in Ponyville, where he belongs. Far, far, far away from any gargoyles.
Well, I think we can safely say we figured out what happened to the river, Rainbow Dash said, flapping the wings fly up higher. This has been Irony Theater, brought to you by Paleowriter. Thank you. Spike's toes squished unpleasantly through the muck of the flooded forest. Ahead of them, the river spilled around huge piles of boulders that had dammed the entire thing up. It wasn't like this yesterday, Spike said, scratching his head. I don't get it.
Every pony?
Spike heard Fluttershy ask meekly. He let some pony else answer. He needed to figure out what was going on with the river, and if it would have affected Rarity and Sweetie Belle at all. Twilight walked around the muck, examining the rock pile from every angle of Applejack. This isn't natural, she determined, stopping in her tracks. Well, ain't natural at all, Applejack agreed, poking at one rock with her hoof. Pinkie Pie cleared her throat.
From my professional opinion, growing up on a rock farm and all.
Pinkie picked up one rock to peer at it closely.
These rocks are definitely not from around here. Every pony?
Fluttershy asked again. You're right, Pinkie, Twilight said. Spike noticed she wore an expression of mild surprise at Pinkie's reasonable contribution to the conversation, though she hid it well from every pony else. There are no cliffs around, Twilight continued, scanning the area. No mountains anywhere close enough to have caused a rock slide onto this very spot. Fluttershy squeaked. Spike hopped up onto one of the larger boulders to escape the mud for a few moments. I mean, I know this is the Everfree Forest, and wacky stuff happens here, but random rocks? Just plain weird. Rainbow Dash flew past Spike, circling the rocky dam.
Every pony!
Fluttershy tried toward the middle of them all, her eyes darting about at the trees overhead. Yes, Fluttershy? Twilight finally answered. She flew up to cower behind Rainbow Dash, shrieking,
Up in the trees! There are dragons!
Dragons? Spike looked up so fast, he nearly felt his neck snap. What? No. Impossible! Above, glowing eyes glinted in the dark of the forest. Before any pony else had the chance to scream, they attacked. But as soon as they left the trees, Spike realized they weren't dragons at all. They were gargoyles. Run! Twilight yelled. She didn't need to say twice. They bolted. There must have been at least 15, no, 20 gargoyles at their heels. Applejack did a barrel roll through some thick weeds, dodging as one swooped toward her. Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash flew so fast their wings became a blur. Spike ran as quickly as he could, but he just couldn't keep up with his friends. A raised tree root tripped him up, and Spike soon found himself sprawled spread eagle in the mud. A massive roar sounded behind him. He flipped himself over to see a huge set of jaws flying toward his face. Instinct kicked in, and Spike blew out his dragon fire straight into the beast's mouth. It shrieked an awful sound, like a hoof down a chalkboard. Spike threw his hands in front of his face and scooted backwards from the gargoyle, accidentally smashing into the tree. The gargoyle flew away from the canopy, clawing at his mouth. You again! Spike looked up, just in time to see another gargoyle, a familiar one, dive-bomb him. Spike! Look out! Twilight screamed. The next thing Spike knew, he was teleported several yards away. He watched as the gargoyle, from the attack on the fillies, smashed into the ground, where Spike had been moments earlier. He climbed to his seat, breathing raggedly. That one! The gargoyle pointed. Stuff its mouth and eat it quick! Spike froze in place. Oh, I don't think so! Rainbow Dash zoomed to a halt and spun around to face the creature. Then, she flew straight at his face and punched it in one of its glowing eyes. Yeah, that'll teach him! Applejack cheered, running up on her hind legs. Come on, girls! We ain't gonna outrun him, so we'll just have to outgun him! She darted toward to join Rainbow Dash, bucking gargoyles aside like they were some sort of weird, bizarre winged apples. But, as valiant as his friends were, Spike knew they were outnumbered, and he didn't have enough dragon fire to beat them all. He was just too small again. Get the scaly one! Another gargoyle yelled, flying at him after he used his dragon fire to scare one of the beasts away from Fluttershy. Spike! Get out of here! Twilight yelled, right before teleporting him even farther from the battle. Hey, you said you ponies would be easy food! One of the gargoyles hissed at another as Pinkie Pie popped in and out from around the trees. So quick, Spike was sure Twilight had to be teleporting her too. They will be! Spike's eyes flew open as one of the gargoyles heaved a rock straight toward Twilight. Watch out! Spike screamed, tearing toward the unicorn. But then, a massive blast of fire burst straight past the gargoyle with the rock, and with it, a roar of epic proportions. What was that? Spike knocked Twilight to the ground, which turned out to be entirely unnecessary, because the gargoyles had already scattered. Dragon! They screamed, Dragon! Fly away! Just you wait. Wait until we're ready, and then you'll be sorry! The gargoyles shouted, as they flew along the forest branches, leaving their prey back in the mud. The forest went entirely still. Pinkie Pie broke the silence. Dragon? Where? Where? She hopped around, nosing behind the trees and searched. Dragon? Fluttershy squeaked, but Rainbow Dash grabbed her tail before she could fly away. It's not a real dragon, the Pegasus said. Her eyes narrowed. All right, kid, come out wherever you are. She scanned the ground around where she flew, and Spike climbed to his feet to look around too. What's going on? I know you're there, Rainbow Dash said, putting one hoof on her hip. I taught you that roar! Oh, come on! A voice said from the forest. She caught us, Apple Bloom. There isn't much we can do, a second voice said. Apple Bloom? Applejack tried forward. Is that you all here and there? Spike shuddered. Applejack's stern and disappointed voice could give Princess Celestia's "You're in trouble" voice a run for its money. Thank you, Scootaloo! Couldn't you disguise your roar some more? Apple Bloom and Scootaloo walked out of the woods, lugging with them their wagon. In it sat a number of items, including a burnt torch and a huge empty jar. What are you two doing here? Applejack demanded. Yeah! How dare you save us? Pinkie Pie looked over by Applejack's side. That ain't exactly what I might, Applejack said. Spike groaned. Of course Apple Bloom and Scootaloo followed them. He was pretty sure he saw Applejack's lasso in their cart, mixed in with other supplies. Why Applejack had thought a bit of rope was going to stop these fillies, Spike had no idea.
Girls, following us was a very dangerous idea,
Fluttershy said, flying down and gently landing by their sides.
You could have been hurt, or worse.
The pair of fillies finally had the good graces to look insane. Just how did you make that much fire anyway? Rainbow Dash asked, flying over to poke at their cart stuff. Piggy was already digging through the whole lot. Rainbow Dash, Twilight chastised, now is not the time. What? It was kind of awesome, Rainbow Dash said. Scootaloo beamed for a moment, then shook her head as if clearing it. You all don't get to talk. You were just going to leave us behind when our friend was in trouble, Scootaloo said, glaring up at all the ponies, including Rainbow Dash. You can't blame us for wanting to help. Oh yeah, without us, you'll be gargoyle dinner, Apple Bloom added, holding her head high. They did have a point there, Spike had to admit, and to see the others were drawing the same conclusion too. Well, thank you all for saving us, Apple said grudgingly, but don't think you're going to get away with this misbehavior, she warned. The fillies smiled at each other, victorious. So, we get to come along now, right? Scootaloo asked. Well, we did let Spike come, didn't we? Rainbow Dash reasoned. Why not these kiddos too? What? Hey now, don't lump me with them! Spike protested. Rainbow Dash gave him a playful punch in the shoulder. Right. I suppose they did make a scarier dragon than you did. So, how did you do that trick with the fire anyway? She turned back to the fillies. Spike's cheeks burned. He could barely even hear the pair of fillies. As they described the kerosene solution, they swiped for Sweet Apple Acres. Are we sure that Apple Bloom's cutie mark in the future should be in construction? Because as many times as we give her potions... Two fillies made a scarier dragon than me. And somehow, I still think I can protect Rarity. Puh, yeah, right. His shoulders slumped, and he walked away as the ponies continued to chatter amongst themselves. Why am I even bothering to come along? I can't even do anything useful. He kicked out a broken branch, sending it flying into a puddle from the flooding forest. Rarity doesn't need me. She never has. I've probably just been annoying her all these years. Now I'm going to show up, interrupting her special mission with my uselessness. Tears welled up in his eyes. The Spike swiped at him with one arm. The other still shouldered his pack, and which was now soaked with mud water. Gargoyles are afraid of dragons, but they're not afraid of me. I guess I wouldn't be afraid of me either. I'm kind of pathetic. I'm a dragon that won't grow big. Probably never grow big. All because I can't be myself when I'm that way. Spike leaned up against a tree. Apparently, myself is pretty lame. Hey there. Spike glanced over his shoulder. Oh, hi, Twilight. The purple unicorn walked up to him, putting a gentle hoof on his shoulder. Don't listen to Rainbow Dash. You know how she jokes. Spike looked away from the mare and out into the forest and sniffed loudly to keep his tears back. Yeah, jokes. Hey, Twilight said again. Hey, I know you. You're much more than meets the eye, Spike. Yeah, right, Spike said. I can't even protect my friends. I'm supposed to be a dragon, Twilight. A dragon! You saw how scared those gargoyles got when he thought a real dragon had showed up. When a real dragon showed up? Spike, I think they were already plenty scared of this real dragon. She prodded him. You totally took down one of those things with just one fire blast. Didn't you notice how they singled you out after that? You were the primary threat to them. Maybe not as much as a fully grown dragon, but still, they didn't give a hoof about the rest of us. He thought about that for a moment, replaying the events in the head. He wasn't quite sure the gargoyles had been quite as focused on him as Twilight made it out to be, but it still perked up his wounded pride mission. Spike looked up at her. So, you really think there's more to me than meets the eye? He asked. I don't think. I know, she said. Now, come on. When am I ever wrong about anything? Before Spike could respond, she struck sheepishly. Wait, don't answer that. They both laughed. Spike began to feel better in spite of himself. Now, let's get back to the group. Twilight said, we have some missing friends to find. Spike straightened up. Right. The ocean sparkled like one giant, gorgeous sapphire. Rarity had never seen anything so beautiful in her entire life.
Oh, Stefan, your kingdom is simply lovely,
she cooed from the sea serpent's back. Sweetbelle propped her front two hose up on the fancy, shimmery raft, her filly eyes wide.
I never knew there could be so much water in one place,
Sweetbelle exclaimed. Stefan beamed back at them. Just wait until you see our ceremony of meeting us! Rarity's imagination began to run wild, visiting a lush tropical locale with white sandy beaches, palm trees, drink-served coconuts.
Do you guys wear war paint there and stop about set things on fire?
Sweetbelle asked, hopping over to look at Steven eagerly in the eye. Okay, I'm seeing Sweetbelle hopping up and down with big wide eyes. My Donis is dying. God! Rarity was once again painfully reminded how differently she and her sister thought.
Sweetbelle, don't be rude.
What? Sweetbelle asked, blinking innocently.
What did I say?
Stefan was laughing. Oh, most generous Rarity! Your sister is sleeping adorable! He messed up her mane again with one of his little skinny fists. Rarity sighed and went back to magically fixing Sweetbelle's hair. I'm so glad you decided to bring her along!
Decided to. Alright.
At least in that moment, Sweetbelle's mind seemed to be thinking exactly what Rarity's was, because the filly gave her sister a sheepish grin.
Well, darling, let's carry on then,
she said to Stefan, gesturing out at the ocean.
I love to see these isles of yours.
Of course, Stephen said. Of course. I'm sure everyone there is anxiously awaiting our arrival. I told them all about you. I just know they'll love you.
Goodness, I hope so,
Rarity thought to herself, looking across the yard.
Otherwise, this is going to be a ridiculously perilous trip for negotiations that might not even take place.
They traveled on for another couple of hours. Rarity wrung out the rest of the river water from the blanket she carried on her back, then magically hovered it over to her and Sweetbelle for sun protection.
You need to be mindful of your coat in the sun, dear,
she said, passing on what she considered to be some important, sisterly sage advice.
Apple Bloom says the sun's good for a pony,
Sweetbelle protested.
Well, it is, if you want to live the rest of your life with wrinkles,
Rarity huffed.
Have you seen Granny Smith?
Sweetbelle sat down under the blanket.
Good point.
Almost there now, Stephen said, after a while more had passed. Look, you can see the isles in the distance. The blanket dropped to the raft as Rarity glanced up. Both her and her sister dashed forward to look out. Rarity's jaw dropped open when she caught sight of what Stefan was pointing out.
Oh, my,
she said in a whisper. Ahead of them weren't the sandy islands of paradise Rarity had been visiting, after all. Instead, craggy rocks jutted out from the water, forming a massive circle around much bigger, central craggy rock, nearly the size of Ponyville. Giant waves crashed repeatedly onto the isles, spraying water in every direction imaginable. Each rock was naturally dark in color, but most of the surfaces had been form-fitted with golden plates, making sure the entire thing reflected the sun, so it was almost painful to look at. Sweetbelle shielded her eyes next to Rarity.
Wow,
the filly said, peering closer.
Look at them all.
She wasn't talking about the rocks or waves. Rarity was certain Sweetbelle was talking about the sea serpents that swam around the rocks and in the waves. Dozens of them, each in different colors and sizes. Rarity winced each time a wave crashed onto the ragged isles, fearing a serpent would get smashed up against a rock. But they all seemed to know exactly what they were doing. For such a flamboyant species, they were certainly formidable enough in their natural habitat.
How am I exactly going to convince them and the dragons, to stop fighting?
Marvelous, isn't it? Stefan asked, his eyes misting up. It's great coming home. Now, are you ready to meet my kin? Rarity swallowed. Ready or not, they were here. She squared her shoulders.
Yes, I am.
Oh gods, I just realized, audience, that in the next chapter, I have a whole fleet of Stephen Magnus to voice. In other words, I have to do my flamboyant voice in different forms for different genders.